Hello and welcome to Community Connection. I'm Iowa City Mayor Bruce Teague. I'm really excited about today's topic, the Raise It Up Ride. This audio-guided bike tour on social justice is chock full of history, art, culture, personal stories, and much, much more. This program aims to educate riders on the history of systemic oppression here in Iowa City, as well as the current inequities that continue to oppress some members of our community. So today we got three guests here to help us discuss this unique interactive experience. Could I have each of you introduce yourselves and tell us briefly about your role in the Raise It Up Ride series? And let's start with you, McGuirk.
Yeah, so I'm the team lead on the Raise It Up Ride series. I've been leading a very small team of bike library volunteers and humanity and action volunteers to do a bunch of the research, a lot of the interviews and recording, and really to bring together everything we're going to need for the actual audio guide, including some of the sort of written materials.
Hi, my name is Audrey Weidemeier. I'm the director of the bike library, and I'm helping out on that team of volunteers. When McGuirk came to me last summer in 2020 and asked what the bike library could do, she had a really good idea, and I said yes to it, and we've been cranking along on this project ever since.
And I'm Tracy Sargeant. I'm the founder and executive director of the Multicultural Development Center of Iowa. I get first prize for having the longest organization name. But I have the pleasure of being the tech guy. When McGuirk and Audrey started socializing their plans, I immediately thought this was maybe one of the coolest ideas that I had heard. And I thought, how can I bring some of my talent to this project? And we kind of came up with this, sensor where they could automatically be detected when they stand in front of this installation, and it will play this wonderful audio that people will hopefully be able to learn more about those significant sites.
So this is super cool, by the way, I have to tell you. But I think we need to know a little bit more about what the Raise It Up Ride series is, as well as how did it evolve? Tell us, how did it start?
Yeah, I can take this one. So during the protests of last summer, the bike library, we kind of not only realized that we wanted to be present as individuals at those protests, Audrey and I and a couple of the other volunteers, but we said, well, what can we do? Is there something we should be doing right now? Or could we maybe kind of bide our time and do a lot of the legwork and figure out something that might be longer lasting and more sustainable using the resources that we had. So every year we put on an event called the Farm Cycle, which is a bike ride that takes cyclists to different farms in the community, and they get to actually try, meals with food that's grown right here. We couldn't do that because of COVID. So we said, the idea kind of sprang forth when we were thinking, okay, in what way could we produce a bike ride that a person could do by themselves or in their small bubble that would still be impactful and still be something where we were kind of guiding the conversation. In terms of Black history in Iowa City and Black lives here and now, the real challenge and the real sort of beauty of the idea was that one core of the idea where we said, okay, we want to guide the conversation, we want to educate, we want to cause people to reflect, to celebrate, and then to take some kind of action. Ultimately, what came about was, let's do something a little bit like a walking tour, which people do on their own all the time, but on your bike. And so it's audio guided with some interactive elements at each of the checkpoints.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And there are 4 different routes that are self-guided tours. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the significant locations, and how did you even choose the routes?
Well, we have not released yet the stops along the route, but we can say that the city has come out with 2 incredible videos that feature 2 of the stops that are on our route. Tate Arms and the Iowa Federation House. Also, one of the reasons we chose some of the sites on the routes, some of the checkpoints on the routes, is we just work with a lot of organizations in the community that are making history now, that are Black run, and we wanted to highlight that. Like, what are people doing now in addition to this history that we want to make sure we don't forget?
What are some of those interactive components at some of these sites that people will be able to engage in, and just how would it work?
I'm happy to take this one. So leveraging my tech background, when we were collaborating on these installations, I thought it might be kind of neat to have something automatically detect that someone is in front of this piece of art. And so we'll be using some sensors that'll be connected to a small compute device that will be embedded inside of the actual installation. And then we have some speakers that will be hooked up to that. And when they walk up, if they're there for longer than a few seconds, the code will automatically detect how far they are, and it'll start playing the audio files specific to that site.
Super, super cool. And I know that you've somewhat, if I understand correctly, you've integrated some local Black artists, musicians, and poets. So tell us a little bit about that as well, because excited to know who's all in part.
Yeah, before we actually realized that this had to be very, very much a narrative, sort of more of a podcast style audio guide, we were thinking, okay, we'll just have somebody narrate why this checkpoint is significant, and A, what people should know about it, but B, what can they do here and now? You know, if this checkpoint is a nonprofit, what can they do? If it's a business, what can they do? At first, those were the narrations. And we said, okay, well, we'll just have a playlist that they can listen to when they're riding, or maybe after the ride or something. So the playlist features about a dozen relatively local, mostly Iowa City, Coralville, a couple from Des Moines, Black and brown artists and poets. So we've got Caleb Rainey, we have James Tutson, we have Blake Shaw. There's a ton of, and those are kind of Iowa City based, but there's a ton of other, I guess, somewhat lesser known artists. But I think most of the viewers would probably be familiar with those three for sure.
And I know some of those names, of course, and looking forward to hearing their involvement. Tracy, now you're the tech guy, so what did you do to bring all of this together? It seems a little bit overwhelming.
Well, I appreciate that. It can feel overwhelming, but when you have such an amazing team, both Audrey and McGuirk inspire me and motivate me on a daily basis. I have a lot of things going on. I try to keep busy, but I really just took a step back and imagined, coming from, a low socioeconomic background, I'm a little sensitive to people needing to have technology to interact and get something, out of this installation. So I try to take a step back and think, how could I make this essentially, socioeconomic agnostic if I could? And that's when we came up with the idea of them walking up and having it automatically play. We went through some iterations, and McGuirk is so, genuine all the time. You get her honest feedback in the most polite way possible. She's really been great to work with. Audrey's okay to work with, but we went through a couple of iterations. We talked about, do we do like a handheld, like FM radio that we could buy on the cheap and give them to people? And is that going to work? And we talked about just having a QR code and having people with smartphones scan that and go to a site that played the audio, but we didn't want to exclude people that maybe didn't have that. So it took us a few iterations to get to this ultimate design. And then I just went into super geek mode and, came up with the code and the components that I knew would work. But full disclosure, this isn't something that I haven't done before. I'm reusing some code and components that we use when we teach people how to build IoT devices, which is essentially what we're doing, minus the network connectivity part of it. So we're reusing some stuff to make it efficient, to make sure it all comes off in the deadline that we've set.
Well, I mean, it's a lot to pull off, and I know that there's been some community partners that have also been involved to create this opportunity, which is actually free to anyone that will go along the trails. And so Iowa City, Iowa, you all did receive the Social Justice and Racial Equity Grant. So tell us a little bit about some of these partners that are involved.
Yeah, so the city of Iowa City is funding the project, and without them, we couldn't do this. We got a $4,000 grant for it. That's going to go into paying local artists and paying for the apparatuses and all those components. And Humanity in Action is our other major partner other than MDC Iowa. Caroline, Austin, and John, who are on our core group, also have been working with us for over the last year. And then South District Neighborhood Association, who has been just a tremendous supporter of ours, and we lean on each other weekly to make sure that we can get done what we need to get done in our community to lift each other up.
Some sort of soft partners have been everybody who's been giving us really good feedback. We did a whole presentation to a bunch of the Bike Library board members, volunteers, and then other sort of community partners. PS1 has been giving me an equipment loan for like the past 3 months for all the recording equipment. And then the Queer Archives also gave me a bunch of audio equipment. Hannah Givler is making the installations, and she's a 3D designer. So she's a Bike Library volunteer, but also one of our partners. Is there anyone else we're forgetting, Audrey? I'm trying to. DeVale.
I'm wearing a DeVale Gates original. He made this jacket for the Raise It Up Ride series. His business is called Victory Over Odds, and we had the pleasure of meeting him at the right time at our grand reopening. And he is going to be helping with marketing, obviously.
I saw that bling bling, and of course I was going to bring it up, like, tell us about this jacket. Where did you get it from? It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a fashion component now that DeVale is with us.
Okay, so he's with you. He's become a part of this with the fashion. How can other people join and participate?
We want people to commit to doing this ride with us come July, August, and September. In July, we'll release the first 10-mile route. August and September, we'll release second and third. And then at the end of September, there will be a longer 45-mile route that people can choose to do. That will be similar, but also different and kind of mix things up a little bit. So you pre-register at bikelibrary.org. You'll see it on every single web page on our website, the little tab to register. Once July 1st comes along, we'll be continuing to market it. We want to make sure that people are sharing this and sharing their experiences on the ride. So there's going to be a lot of like asks to, get your coworkers involved or get your family members involved or call up a friend and say, hey, do you want to go on a bike ride with me? Send them the link and register.
So the Bike Library, you all have opportunities for people to go for rides and that type of stuff every now and then. This is an opportunity, but what is the ultimate thing that you hope people will walk away from this experience?
I think we would all agree that we see this as sort of a means to an end. The bike ride hopefully will share stories, change some perceptions in order to change action, and also give people an eye-opening experience to maybe businesses or artists or stories that they've never confronted. We've been thinking in terms of these 4 cardinal directives. It's sort of a pun on the cardinal directions. Those would be education, celebration, reflection, and action. So when I kind of say we think of this as a means to an end, the final end would be are our riders taking action in the community as a result of going on this ride? Are they more likely to go support a Black-owned business? Are they going to donate to, we're going to have a fund that we're kind of asking for anyone who rides the ride to donate to, and we're going to have a committee that runs that fund. Audrey, you can tell us a little bit more about that if you want to. And then to maybe get involved with the South District Neighborhood Association, or to get involved with Dream City or MDC Iowa. Hopefully this will spark a bit of a change in people who maybe aren't part of the South District or don't typically ride the routes that we're taking them on, but would want to kind of get involved with that community much more.
I would only add that I think this is a great opportunity to have some unity in community. Really what they're doing here is bringing people into parts of our community that they may not have historically gone to. And then maybe we can support the diversity market, right? There's more opportunities to bring some traffic into, a historically maybe underserved part of the community. So they're really bringing awareness to a lot of different things, social justice, racial equity, the history of this city that sometimes we don't really talk about. And what I hope to come out of this is empowering people to have more difficult conversations. And I think, this team has been amazing at just kind of being very purposeful in what they want to have come out of this. And I think that's what we need more of. It's not a soft sell, it's very direct. We want to address racial equity. We want to address social justice in this community.
And we believe at the bike library, we believe a book like a bike can transport you to new worlds, whether that's around town or in your own mind in this reflection piece. And so, transporting to new worlds and what does it mean to commit to the movement for Black liberation, and what are you going to do about it every single day to, either reflect on it or go somewhere or spend your money somewhere. So we do believe that the bicycle is a vehicle for revolution, and we're trying to just make sure that happens here in our community in Iowa City, because it's a really, really good community to be a part of.
Well, I have to say thanks to all of you, because I hear from people all the time, what are other ways that I can contribute? What are other ways that I can learn more about the history of Black people here in our community? And definitely, how can I support Black businesses? Where are they? And so I think this is just another way for people that really want to know how they can contribute. This is an avenue that you've given to them. So thank you so much for all the work you've done. This is fabulous. Any parting words that you want to say to us as we end our time today?
I'd just like to say thank you to Tracy, John, and to McGuirk. Y'all are incredible friends and co-workers and partners. Yeah.
I would echo that, but I would also say that, this is a model for allyship right here. We started this partnership a year ago with the STEM classes in the parking lot of the neighborhood center of Johnson County, and it's blossomed and grown from there because they really do believe in allyship. They've shown up every time I've asked. They've welcomed and embraced what I'm doing, and I've tried to do the same. So if you're looking for a model to mimic or emulate, this is it. Kind of coming together. It's not about ego. It's about really improving our community, and that's what these guys embody every day.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I would just like to thank you, Bruce, and Community Connection, and to kind of leave anyone who's considering doing this ride with a parting thought of the difference that the ride hopes to make, and that everyone who came together to build the ride hopes to make, will only happen if people not only ride the ride, but get their buddies to continue riding the ride. That's what's going to make the difference. And then to really pause and listen to the audio guide and try and approach it from a point of openness to try and make change.
All right, that's the ask to the community. Come out and ride, bring friends along, and let's really take an opportunity to really digest what has been created as an opportunity for our community here. Thanks to each of you for being here today. Really appreciate you, and I hope you have an awesome and amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, Mayor T.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Mayor Teague.
That's our show. Again, you can register for the Raise It Up ride on the Iowa City Bike Library's website. We'll see you next time on Community Connection. Take care, Iowa City.